Hi everybody, welcome to Tale for Gamers episode 7, the December update. We are recording this on New Year's Eve. We have a pretty packed show, so we've all been building more stuff. We also, at the start of December, played our sort of halfway point update sort of event. We went to Warhammer World. We invited a few people from the Patreon, David and Will and Nick Cordell and people like that, to come and play. So we did a little 8-player event at Warhammer World. So we'll talk about that. We've built some things. We have Cordell popping up later in the show to go through his fantastic conversions. And then we have everyone's community updates, as per usual. So yeah, let's get started after this. Hi everybody, how you all doing?
Hello.
Hello. It's New Year's Eve, so we better get cracking so everyone can go out partying or whatever it is us old people do nowadays.
Yeah.
I guess the first thing to go through is we've all actually played some Zone Mortalis games. Everyone has been playing Heresy because we did the event.
Yeah.
Yay! How was it? How did it all go? Did everyone enjoy?
Yeah, really good.
Cool.
Going to Warhammer World is always fun, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, we had a whole little weekend of it, right? Because we all arrived at different times. Gary, Russ, you came up first, right?
Yeah.
So we drove up. I can't remember the days now, but yeah, we drove up first and sort of hung out and played. Just hung out in Bugman's, really, didn't we?
Yeah, we had like the Warhammeriest evening because I came up that evening. You had the whole day there, and then we found ourselves like playing Underworlds and Warhammer Magic cards while behind us there was an Age of Sigmar pub quiz. No, Lord of the Rings pub.
Yeah. A really, really difficult Lord of the Rings pub quiz.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's what you make if you're aiming it at people who have come for a Lord of the Rings weekender event.
Yeah.
I think the people that played the Middle-earth strategy game, they're pretty into Lord of the Rings at this point.
The people still left playing.
It was like questions about the game. So it's like, well, I can answer some of the questions about like Lord of the Rings, but I've never played the game, so I can't answer any of those ones.
Yeah, there was a lot of like, it started off, I remember it starting off, we were like playing Magic while going, yeah, we'll just do this on the side. And there was quite a nice fun picture round where they had the guy presenting photographed in the poses of models, and you had to guess which model he was. And then
they were all whoever it is from Zelda.
One of them was definitely Zelda. Yeah. And then the first round was like, difficult Lord of the Rings lore questions, like, where did the pact between King Boglington of Somewhere and King Flabduil of the Elves happen? And then suddenly it was like, great, guess the stat line. Here's 3 stats.
Yeah.
So yeah, it felt like an extremely nerdy evening.
I'm a bit worried because you've roped me into doing the quiz at Warhammer Fest.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's going to be roped by the same person.
Although we've also been invited to do it with Silver Paints and Quipster Nerd, so we might have a bit of good team there.
Okay.
Yeah. So your job might just be to answer the hilarious pose questions.
Brilliant. I'll go to the bar and get the beers. You guys do all the buff and stuff.
Yeah. I'm sure Silver will be with you, Gary. The following day we met up. We played our games. We had all the little Necromunda boards, 4 Necromunda boards booked out while everyone around us was playing Lord of the Rings. Bobbie, you joined us. We were joined by Cordell, who'll be on the show later, and by Will and David from the Patreon, filling in some spaces because I booked 8 slots, so we might as well use them. And yeah, we had some fun games. I played my first games with the White Scars ever because yeah.
Same for me with my Alpha Legion. Yeah, my first Alpha Legion games.
Yeah. But Bobbie, you tried out the Imperial Fists on Tabletop Sim.
I tried them out digitally before, but yeah, this first time actually picking up and rolling physical dice.
And Gary, you've played a few games with those exact Space Wolves by that point.
Yeah, so I had a fair idea of what to do right and what not to do.
Any surprises from that?
No. I've got pretty much what I was expecting. Pretty good in combat. Stay away from dreadnoughts.
Yeah. The first game I played with White Skull. So we should say one of the things we definitely found out was that Zone Mortalis is quite a badly balanced mission.
That scenario is the way it works is
terrible.
very heavily skewed to the defender. I think we had like one win for the attackers, which was the White Skulls. Did you?
Yeah, I had my first game was a win for the attackers. Yeah, which was me.
But I don't think another attacker won the whole event, which is kind of
one of the things. I think the rules for the Zone Mortalis are really good. But actually, I played 2 games on the day because we had odd numbers. But in my second game, I didn't actually follow the mission rules properly. I was like, right, because I'd won the role to be the attacker, and I was like, look, rather than putting these somewhere massively inconvenient for you, let's just put them on a center line along the middle of the board.
Yeah,
and it actually made it a much more fun game because if I'd have just done what I did in the first game against K0RDHAL, then I'd have. It would have been hard to lose.
Yeah,
the defender getting to place the objectives.
Yeah, and then defend them.
Yeah. It's really easy to just put. I mean, one where you are and the other 2 really far away, and then the way the scoring works, you just
and the first turn thing. So if anyone doesn't know, the way it works is it's objective scoring. At the start of your turn, you score whichever objectives you're holding each turn. So it's like progressive objective scoring. One objective goes in the defender's quarter, then the attacker gets another quarter, and then the other 2 quarters, the defender can place an objective in those, and the defender gets first turn. So the defender almost always starts the first game 1-up, and the attacker's almost always running to try and get some objectives. And if they can get them, maybe by the time the attacker gets his second turn, which is the first time they'll get to score anything, the defender's probably 3 points up.
So in my first game, I played it really cheesy. I was a defender. I placed all 3 objectives pretty much near my deployment zone. Started racking up points and then just played keep away, And then in the next game, I did what Russ did. We just spread them across the middle, so we both had to run and get them. And it made for, I think, a more fun game.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
I think we also, nice thing is that we had, you were playing Blackshields, Russ, Nick was playing Blackshields, which meant that we could actually engineer it so that there was an equal number of loyalists and traitors, because Blackshields can fill out either side. And we actually got to do a loyalist versus traitors event. I can't remember who won, but yeah.
Well, I think it partly depends on what side I count as, because I won both of my games. So it probably depends on whether I was loyalist or traitor.
Yeah, it was loads of fun. I really enjoyed it. We've all got probably 3 games in each on that one day.
I just love the atmosphere of Warhammer World for playing games like that anyway.
Yeah.
So
it was really nice and chilled, and everyone seemed to be there to have a good time rather than there's no people trying to gotcha or anything like that. It was really nice to. Because I didn't get to play any of you guys. I just played people and everyone was really nice, and it's good to meet some new gamers who have the same sort of mentality of playing for fun rather than power gaming.
There were lots of crazy, silly things happening as well. I like the Eversor assassin being terrifying until people realize you could just shoot it and it can't do anything about that because it's got like a special fancy stratagem that doesn't work in Zone Mortalis to get out of danger.
I managed to kill it with an assault cannon in the opponent's turn, and it exploded and took out the rest of the squad. That was really some very good shooting by that Terminator.
Whereas I had the opposite, that I played K0RDHAL first and knew that it was going to be nasty in combat, but it was so nasty in combat that it leapt over a cargo shipping container, attacked a tactical squad, only killed like a couple of guys, I think. But then the rest of them turned tail and legged it, and he mowed them all down and took out an entire tactical squad and an apothecary, like that. It was horrific. It was, oh my God,
advance.
Yeah.
No, but it was a great time was had by all. It was lots of fun. We'll get into some details in our updates, but it was really good. So thanks for everyone who came and made that work. We will be doing the full one at the end of February. I'll put the dates out at some point on the Patreon. It's like the 25th-ish, like the last weekend of February. We've got booked and we've got 12 slots, which means there'll be 8 slots once we account for us. So yeah, I'll put those up for people who want to join in. So any other games though played? Well, I got one more game in. I know I got two more games in, didn't I? Because I played you, Russ.
Yep.
We played at Bad Moon Cafe.
We did.
We did,
which was a fun game.
It was a really fun little game. Yeah. Did you beat me, right?
No, you won.
Did I?
It was really close.
Okay, right.
It was like I think the main thing was that because I failed those two pinning leadership rolls, one of them I needed a 10 and rolled an 11. And the other one, to be fair, it was like I needed to beat I think I needed 7 or lower. So one of them, it wasn't unexpected, but yeah. And then I failed my librarian leadership test, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But actually, it felt like my army was working the way I wanted it to. So I wasn't upset at losing because the army was doing the things I wanted it to.
I think it fell foul of standard word bearers, fear-based shenanigans, leadership shenanigans. I got one other game in. I played Nathan last week with he's been painting up tanks, so we did a 2,000 points with his Spartan and his Land Raider and things like that. Another terrifying game. Playing an entire army of Terminators and Spartans is really difficult, especially when I've built my entire army to be all Volkite and snipers. But my I got to try out a load of units that I'd not used before, which was nice. And I was definitely on the receiving end of some horrible dreadnoughts. But basically, I managed to win it by actually playing Sagyamazan properly, playing it where if the warlord dies, he was smushed by a contemptor. If the warlord dies, everyone becomes fearless, and then he just couldn't get me off of objectives because he was having to individually kill every single member of a squad.
So I had a less successful experience against Nathan. I went over there. I went over to his house a couple of days ago, and took my Raven Guard.
Yeah.
We played 1,500 points, so there was only the one AV-14 tank in the game. But an army where every single thing is AP2. Even so, in the first game, I just didn't realize how utterly hard it would be to do anything. And even in the second game, where I think I did the right things to try and overwhelm one flank, just couldn't hack through that AP2 enough. The contempt, this was my lesson in how nuts contemptor dreadnoughts are.
Yeah, the contemptor dreadnoughts are terrifying, partly because of that thing where, because they're brutal, you have to roll each save. You can't go through, but you have to roll 3 saves. But also, one of the things I found out is the other big rule of that White Scars Sagyamazan is that they all get Feel No Pain 5 up, which is, of course, useless against a sort of Terminator army who've all got Power Fists and Chain Fists and things like that, because they're all instant death. But it's useless against Dreadnoughts, it's useless against Las Cannons, and it's useless against Terminators.
It was still fun, and what I realised was I've got a couple of old... So the army that I was using was my Rogue Trader... everything from the 80s army. And what I realized is I've got 2 old metal rapiers and 2 old metal dreadnoughts. So I'm gonna use them because they're tiny. They're the old Eddie and Furioso one, the Doredio and Furioso, Fury and Eddie ones. So I'm going to paint them and use them as Castroferrum because it feels like more like the correct size. So even though strictly speaking they're neither of those things, they just feel like the right size. But that gives me a 2+ save as well and a bit of shooting. And I'm going to put the Rapier laser destroyers in, and that might actually make the army slightly more viable. And then I think I can still fit another squad in after that as well. So I might put like a small Mordekian squad or something.
Cool, very good.
Yeah.
So we should probably move on though to updates. So Russ, you managed to get an army together for the event. How have you done since then?
Just because I was literally up. After we'd been to Warhammer World, me and Gary were set up in the foyer of our hotel, desperately basting all of my army, etc., etc. So I only just got it ready, and I've been in a bit of a rush today. I've put a photo in our chat of how the big robots look now. They are actually yellow rather than pink. Yeah. I've since discovered that the pink I was using was way too dark. What I would have been, I'm using a lighter pink now that works really well to still give me that lovely vibrant yellow. But that was a lot of layers of yellow to actually get it to work. Since then I've also managed to get the shoulder pads done on my tactical squads because they weren't done for the event. They were just light blue and pink for the event, but now the shoulder pads are actually looking like they're meant to for the unit. You can see on the sergeant I've done where I've actually done the one big one and kill on his power fist. That's that's very, very close to how it looks in the Rogue Trader rulebook. So I'm pretty happy with that. And then I instead of actually getting on with what I should be getting on with, I decided to sculpt some shoulder pads for a new. I decided to sculpt some stuff for a Tech Marine for my 2,000 point army. So I've done sort of. That's based on the very, very old Rogue Trader sort of style shoulder pads.
Yeah.
Sculpted one of them, assembled another one out of bits, and made a helm for another. Just got to now put him together. Oh, I've got the I broke some screws off here in order to make myself a drill for him.
Right.
So I've got to build that, and then I've just got to assemble him. And I might build him a servo arm as well. Who knows? But then I've done nothing because for 2 days, probably 3 days in a row, all I was doing was getting a Christmas present ready for my wife because she wanted an escape room type thing.
Oh wow!
So I did a box break-in. So there was like a cage, but the reason I've even put the photo on here is the little chest.
Yeah.
What I realised is that chest will be perfect for storing my previous Taylor 4 Gamers warband. Blackbeard's Buccaneers. And I've got 2 of those little chests now because I bought 2 from Hobbycraft. And I'm going to use one of them to store the warband and the other one to store all my swag tokens.
Yeah.
Which is probably going to be chocolate coins.
Yeah.
yeah, that works.
And I think apart from that, the only thing I didn't get any sort of Christmassy presents, but I got the coolest eBay win. So I got a load of great stuff on eBay this Christmas for a really good price. Like got like Dark Millennium for 12 quid, and got myself an extra Vindicator and Rogue Trader Razorback, 2nd edition Razorback. But I got this lot. It's a Skeleton Horde. So I've got the Skeleton Horde box. And I've got 1 chariot, 10 horsemen, and about 20 odd infantry. But the thing is, there's also a load of the old Rogue Trader Chaos Missile launchers, conversion beamers, and autocannons.
Oh,
and
wow.
the person has done something amazing. They've made an undead army, but they've got all the undead holding all of this chaos weaponry. And I bought it with the intention of taking it all apart and making it into undead and those weapons. And there's a little part of me that feels like I don't think
keep it as is.
I'll just keep going with that theme.
I bought them for other things because I got them for like less than 25 quid. And I can use them to make so many cool things for my armies. But come on, you got to admit, skeletons running around with conversion beamers, missile launch, and autocannon. One of them has got the autocannon through the rib cage of the cavalry mounts. It's so cool. And I just don't know whether I can face like taking it apart in order to get the separate bits I want from it all. Anyway,
I think there's a Chaos Warband in there that you can use in either game.
Yeah. Who knows? We'll see.
Brilliant. That's good. That's still a load of stuff. Brilliant. Bobbie, how have you been doing? I hear you have been having fun with freehand.
Well, yeah, I've been sort of slacking a bit, so I'm actually going to be able to breathe during my update this week rather than normally I'm just having to rush through it. So I can actually take my time. I've been freehanding a little bit, mostly the doors on my Rhino. Going to be for my Templars. I wanted the Templar cross on the hatches, which turned out to be a bit of a pain in the butt to try and do because the hatches are huge and you need to get the line straight. Otherwise it looks really weird, and you've got to go over the
bumps.
It's more the hatch zigzag. Trying to paint a straight line where there's a zigzag of plastic is kind of awkward. I still need to paint the gun hatches because I'm doing those separate, so I can, if I want to swap out for like a storm bolter and a heavy bolter or whatever, I've got the options. Because you end up, as soon as you've bought a couple of tanks, you end up with loads of the hatch mounts for the rhinos. So it's really easy to just have swappable weapons.
Yeah, I did the same with mine. I just I glued the cupola on, but the actual hatch, you can just shove it in. And
I'm doing the whole like the ring and the hatch as the removable piece, but I think both will work. And I've also painted the tracks for that. I'm so bad at painting tanks up, and I always think, oh, I'll paint the tracks separately because that makes it easier. And then I just getting around to just painting a load of tracks.
Yeah.
Is never what I want to do.
It's always a horrible experience painting tracks. Too bumpy.
And it needs to be like weathered and dirty down and that sort of stuff. But I get to it. I really liked using my apothecary in my Zone Mortalis army, so I decided I was going to, despite having converted to apothecaries, I've bought the Forge World ones as well now. So I now have 4 apothecaries, which seems like it's probably too many, but I've got quite a big army and I've got lots of elite units. So I don't think it's really that much of, when you're already paying 300 points for a unit of 10 guys, spending an extra was it like 40, 50 points for an apothecary?
45 for the apothecary, and then whatever you spend on power weapons and artificer armor, basically.
It's worth it.
Yeah.
For the feel no pain on a big expensive squad.
Unless Nathan's shooting you with a melters off his Contemptor Dreadnought.
I mean, there's always that. There's some stuff that's going to get past the feel no pain. But,
and I notice you've also done the same thing to his trousers that Russ did.
Oh,
yeah. I fixed the greaves on the Mark IV, and I swapped the shoulder pads out on them as well, and some weapon swaps, and just little conversions. I didn't go nuts with them, but because everyone has those models, I wanted to make mine a little bit different.
Yeah.
And then building more fancy officers.
Yeah, more consoles because I didn't have enough. This is like a chaplain / morale enforcer. I think is the kind of vibe I'm going for him from one of the made to order figures, because I just couldn't resist. He's just such a perfect fit for what I wanted for that character, with the big speakers, and he's got a Crozius, but it's like a really toned down parade stick kind of thing. It's admonishment rod rather than a Crozius Alcanum, but it's still a hitty stick.
Brilliant.
It kind of has that vibe almost of a riding crop. Considering
that kind of vibe I was going for. Yeah.
Very Imperial fisty, that.
Because he's kind of one of the more blinged out characters in my army as well, which I think makes some sense.
Yeah, it works. Yeah.
And then quad mortars, because I'm going for trying to build up towards my field army rather than Zone Mortalis army, so I needed some artillery.
Yeah.
And I think quad mortars is what I'm going for small artillery. They're just the Cataphron Breacher 40k AdMech wheel track based things.
Yep, with a custom shield.
And I've done some custom gunners from just Mark 6s, and then I'm gonna 3D print some guns to stick on top of them.
Some thud guns.
Yes,
what are the stats on the thud guns? They look great.
Yeah, those are like the old squat thud guns from the 80s.
Yeah, I'm kind of taking that design. I've enlarged them a little bit because if I just did a 1-to-1 copy, they'd be a bit small. But quad mortars, they get like 4 different optional shells, and then if you've got a siege break, you can take Phosphex shells on them as well, which is what I'm doing. I'm bringing them for the Phosphex because it's just so nasty. But they can get shrapnel shells, which are quite likely to do pinning, which also seems like a good option. And I think they do like a frag shell as well. They're pretty got quite a lot of variety and adaptability. I think they're quite an interesting take.
And the stock quad mortar that you get if you bought them from Forge World looks more like a Thunderfire cannon, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like a Thunderfire cannon with that sort of like circular gun with four barrels in it.
Yeah.
Although the one for the Solar Auxilia has 4 separate barrels, it's a completely different design, which is quite cool. But the price of those put me off buying them for this army. I wanted to do something a little on the cheap.
Cool. Looks brilliant. Great. So updates towards the next thing, which is 2,000 points we use in a normal game, which is and I've got other things I'm working on. Like I've still got my missile launcher
squad, and I want to beef up my heavy bolter squad. I've kind of written a list. I'm not completely happy with it, but I think that's mostly because I haven't really played any big 2,000 point open. Like I haven't played a game out on an open field yet, so I think it's going to be quite different to Zone Mortalis.
Yeah, very.
Cool. Gary, you've got some progress. So some of this you had to get done right at the start of December for the event, right?
So the first tactical squads were just about 3 colours and done for the day. They still need to get finished. But yeah, a squad of 10 tacticals with the Forge World shoulder pads. Pretty basic stuff. I need to tidy them up, but yeah, they're good. You know, I'm making another squad or 2 of those, so I've got a few line units. Very useful for scoring.
Yeah, looks great. Looks great. And then you've moved on to Grey Slayers with all those 40k bits.
Yeah, so once I built one squad, I was like, right, let's go and see what, you can mess around with the kit, the Mark 6 kit. And I used loads of 40k bits from my bits box. Dug out as many Space Wolf combat shields as I could find, and then as many different power axes, because they look cool with all the wolf heads and the runes and stuff. And yeah, built the whole squad. They were a nightmare to build. It does not sort of goes easily together as you want, especially with 7 copies of the same shield. You don't want them all doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So there was that. I made it the sergeant. I made out of Grom Dragon Gaze, who is in a different size of armor. So I removed his legs and gave him Mark 6 legs, so more, and a Mark 6 helmet.
He looks way all your sergeants look like they could be traitors.
Well, I mean, the previous tactical squad, he's only got a cloak and that's it. He's pretty standard.
Looks well fancy.
But yeah, no, he looks great. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure what else I'm going to do to the axes to make them fit. They were just given like a wash of blue. Looks good, but I'll see what else I can do to finish them off. They're done, really, bar a bit more basing and tidy up.
Amazing. Great.
And then I moved on to tanks.
Yeah.
Started on my Land Raiders. I built the Spartan. And then I put the Forge World doors on it, which don't quite fit anywhere. Like the side doors, I needed to trim away bits of plastic so that they could slot in. And the front doors never closed. Like there's a large gap. There's gaps at the sides, and then when you close it, it just didn't connect.
Yeah.
I had to scoop out lots of plastic to make space for the teeth.
Right.
So that it would shut properly. It still doesn't. There's still a bit of a gap, but it's good enough. And then the weirdest thing, I never noticed it, but the other door on the side, on the right side of the Land Raider, it opens upways like a DeLorean instead of dropping down like all the other ones. Like all the other ones have 3 hinges at the bottom, and it looks like you just squish whatever's behind the door when it opens, like an assault door.
Like a ramp.
Yeah. The weird one on the right side has got like a little handle, like they lift it up.
Yeah.
But really bizarre. I didn't like that, so I chopped all of those bits off and started putting the plastic bits in.
Yeah.
So I'm making it into another drop door.
Yeah, it looks convincing.
I'll fill in that little gap at the bottom, but yeah, it's just a really.
I don't think I'd have cared enough to put that much effort in. I'd have just been like, oh well, never mind. No one's going to notice.
Yeah, but it would have bothered me, to be honest.
I think it's one of those things that when you notice it yourself, it's going to keep bothering you every time you look at it if you don't fix it.
Yeah, I was looking like that as well.
I was looking around. Most of the other legions seem to have proper doors. It's just Space Wolves for some reason have this silly upward opening.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't
to
know.
be fair, DeLoreans from they're just cool. You should have just gone with the DeLorean look.
Articulated that so it had little flappy DeLorean doors.
But I mean, that means someone has to hold it up while everybody else gets out. It's very going to slow you down, and it doesn't.
Surely there's like a pneumatic thing.
I feel like they probably have hydraulics.
It's just like a doggy door. It flaps open as they come in and out.
That's why they did it. That must be why they did it.
Yeah.
Like a cat flap.
A big doggy door, so that the wolf.
Now I want to get in touch with Forge World, find out who did those doors, and check. Come on, the reason you did it that way, so it's a dog flap, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And then you started on the Land Raider too.
Oh yeah, so I bought one of the Proteus for the command squad, which is a smaller, like it'll be the Perga and her Fengari.
Ferengi.
Yeah.
I'm never going to be able to pronounce that, am I?
The Ferengi.
Ferengi. Yeah. I was building it, and then I was like, I can build both of these with a little bit of magnetizing. So it's sort of half built at the moment. I've just got to work out where the magnets go so it all holds together.
Is that actually going to work?
It will work, in, of course. It'll totally work. It will never fall apart mid-game, ever.
I just wonder how you get around the sort of knobbly front bits. I looked at it and was like, no, that's not going to be changeable. But
yeah, because you can't slide it in and out because of the wheel axles to protrude too far to let you slide in and out. So one side has to come off to let the front on and off. So it's going to be
magnetize on the sides. Yeah, no, I can see that working.
So the right-hand tracks, which are not attached, are going to be all magnetized around the side, and then it'll sandwich the front in.
Yeah. And then you just use those grooves to hold the front bit in.
Yeah, and then I'll just put magnets everywhere I can that it'll stay. Or blue tack or something, just gummy it up with blue tack as well.
And is that one having normal doors?
But I really like both. And the Explorer is so bad value, isn't it? Like in a game, like you pay more points for less capacity and one scout move.
Well, that scout move though. So it was interesting. I don't know if you found this, Russ, but when I was playing Nathan we both had a Spartan and we both had a Land Raider. Now the thing with the Spartans and Land Raiders is, if you move more than 5 inches, 6 inches, you suddenly, all your weapons except one are snapshots. You've got these massive tanks to transport people that are only ever moving 6 inches a turn. And you want people out by the second turn. So really, the only advantage having a tank has is you get like 6 inches further up the board. And so the idea that your tank has a free 12-inch scout move at the top of the game, that's actually gets your Terminators quite far up the field.
It can get you onto an objective pretty easily.
Yeah.
But you lose that assault ramp where you'll get out, spend a turn getting shot before you're closer to all the enemy guns because you've moved 12 inches closer to everything. So you've moved all the way up.
Regardless of how you use it, though, it does give you that sort of one turn, most likely a protection from an alpha strike.
And you're probably quite clever in putting your Space Wolf guys in it, because don't you have counter-attack anyway, so it doesn't matter if you get assaulted.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
You just move up, get out, hold an objective at the top of your first turn, and then if they assault you, you're assaulting anyway.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, but then you're both assaulting.
Well, you can hold the line, and then they're not assaulting anymore, and you are.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, that's actually...
so I do like the Explorer model. I'm just not sure about extra points for smaller capacity and a 12-inch. It seems like a bad deal.
Yeah.
You can test them both out and see if it works, can't you?
Yeah. I've not fixed the guns into the hull yet because I want to try and see if I can find a good way of mounting them in. I'm going to have to look around and see who's done any.
Oh yeah, I looked at that and I couldn't figure out a good way of doing it other than magnetizing the ports. I couldn't think of a good way, so I just chose options.
Yeah.
I couldn't think of a good way to magnetize those guns.
So, like what you were saying, it seems like the obvious thing that everybody would want is more las guns, because it's like, an extra pair of las guns is great, especially with so much contemptors and stuff running around. But like you said, you'd be hitting on 6s if you move too far. So, flamers are a good choice. And
my worry with the flamers was that because with the flamers, you put the template at the gun.
Yeah.
So you've already lost 3 inches just because of the nose of the tank.
Okay. Oh, is it back to nose of gun business?
Yeah.
It's not the hull, right?
Yeah, so you already lose 3 inches putting. That's why a pintle-mounted heavy flame was such a bad idea, because it's like halfway up the tank in the middle of this like 5-inch tank.
Sure. Yeah. I don't know. Heavy bolter, more shots, hitting on 6s.
It's the cheapest option as well. It's like, it's really interesting at the minute because I think we're all playing with because we've all built these armies for Zone Mortalis, we're all playing with way more 2-up saves and Terminators than we would usually be. Like when we actually start playing with armies that aren't all AP2, 2 wounds, are actually the heavy bolters going to become useful? against
Gotcha.
rhinos and
My-
things.
My heavy bolter squad in Zone Mortalis did some really good work. I mean, it's because it's Imperial fists, so they're extra good heavy bolters
Mm.
because they're hitting on twos. But they really cleared some figures off the table.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to become more useful as we go on. Like, shooting rhinos, pinging things off, being cheap, and they can fire at a different thing to the rest of the guns because Land Raiders have power of the machine spirit. So yeah, I don't know. I put las cannons on my Land Raider and heavy bolters on my Spartan because I figured the Spartan was expensive enough,
Yeah.
especially with a flare shield. And then you did a bit of storage sorting, so you've got your magnetizing trays out.
Yeah, so I got so I had one when we went to at the start of the month to take them to Warhammer World, but the new squads just didn't fit. So I've done a second tray, and these are because I'm using the Necromunda bases. They all have the little circle magnet holder on the bottom, and they're all just using the 3x2mm magnets, and they just pop straight in with zero glue. It's crazy. It's like the easiest thing to do.
Wow. Oh, I should have thought of that. I've been getting KR case.
But yeah, no, I'm definitely down with magnetizing. I started doing magnetizing the bases with the Fimmer in the last tale, and I think that I'm switching everything to really useful boxes now. You can see what's in them as well, so you can see where the models are that you need. Like if you're not using all the units, you can just go, right, there's those ones. You're not flipping through 3 layers of foam. Where's those?
Yeah, all my finished armies are all in really useful boxes these days. I think it's the best way to do. Magnets, they're magical.
Yeah. Definitely.
I think I've got too many of my own weird armies that I'd have to rebase to do that. Like, especially with my own.
Because you have the solid resin bases.
Yeah, because I made my own bases
in all of them, and yeah, that'd be a lot of work.
Yeah, you can buy the magnetic sort of stickers that go on the bottom. Yeah.
Yeah, but they're still about 2mm thick, those stickers, aren't they? They're quite thick. If they actually, in order to have enough magnetism, the 1mm thick stuff doesn't seem to do the job.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Just have to do a lot of drilling to the bottom of bases that have already been made. Yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'm so invested into KR cases now that I'm like, I don't want to. I'd have to switch everything or nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm in a similar boat.
Yeah, so I did the same. Like I bought into Battle Foam for all my Blood Bowl. So like I've got about 15 painted Blood Bowl teams and another 20 or so teams not painted, and they're all individually in Battle Foam boxes. But every time or trays, like all stacked on a shelf, and when I'm looking for like where's the scaving, it's really it's not easy to go through lifting out all the trays.
Yeah.
Let me just grab. So I'm switching all of my Blood Bowl over to these size small. This, and yeah, it just each one has the team just in, nice and easy.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing, right? Will they hold some of the old metal armies and things like that as well?
It's like you said, if some of the stuff need me to drill out the bottom, then I will drill out the bottom. It's a bit easier with Blood Bowl teams. It'll take with a Dremel to do 12 guys, 20 guys.
Some of my metal armies, though, it'll be like 4 magnets per model or something, just to have a chance of holding them.
Yeah, that
I
is
find
true.
for a metal space marine, 1 magnet's mostly okay, but anything bigger, you're putting like 2 or 3 on.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's something to think about. I am going to do a load of reboxing. I mean, I've started doing. I've just dug out more KR cases for mine, but we'll see. So I've done a load of stuff. I did my games, got my army finished in one. Like the army came together, as we know, in like one big batch because they were all mostly painted except for the oil washing, and then they all got oil washed and based. So yeah, I had some fun games. The Right Scars, good fun. They were fast. I forgot Feel No Pain in every game. The Breachers did some breaching. The Terminators were good. And then I sort of had a week off, and then I did like what I'm calling a quick tank batch. In that it was I'm really pleased with how they turned out, but they were really quick to paint. I painted up all the basic tanks, so Spartan, Land Raider, 3 rhinos, one of which isn't complete yet because I haven't done it's actually a Damocles rhino and I haven't done the back yet, and a Xiphon Interceptor. I did as one sort of batch. Took about a week. And it's mostly masking tape, to be honest, is why it was so fast. I sprayed them with Army Painter Silver Primer, sprayed them with weathering powders and weathering oils and things, masked over all the silver. But so silver primer, weathering oils, masked over all the silver, sprayed them black, highlighted the black bits with grey, masked over all the black with zigzag patterns, sprayed them bone, highlighted them white with an airbrush, and then took the masking tape off. And that's like 90% of the tank.
Right, yeah. They look really good.
And then all I did was basically paint in like the other little metal-y bits. Basically, it was going over there with metal and black and a bit of blue for the lights. And those are the only other color: gold, silver, black, and a bit of blue for the lights. Those are the only other colors on them. Did the transfers and then oil washed the whole lot. So it really was like 90% of it is an airbrush and some masking tape.
I'm really tempted to steal your method for doing mine to the Space Wolf zigzags everywhere.
Yeah. And it's really that wasn't even fancy masking tape. That was like decorators low tack masking tape, and just like laying them out roughly, and then using the edge of one on the zigzag to be a guide for the other one, just cutting the zigzags out with a craft knife. It was like a day of airbrushing and masking tapes, and then like a day of painting details and decals, and a day of gloss varnish and then oil wash. And so about a week in total of just like get all of them done. So I'm really pleased. They look really good despite actually not having much painted on them. It's mostly just decals and the odd detail. So happy with that. That would then allowed me to then play those in my game against Nathan. Zyphon was great fun. Came on, as we all know, comes on in now the second turn because it's a player. Did a load of shooting and almost killed the Dreadnought. And then in the next turn, Nathan shot it with a Spartan, managed to snapshot it, because you have to snapshot vehicles, with all his las cannon, snapshotted it, blew it up, explosion, first shot of the game.
Yeah.
So as is traditional, my fancy new plane got shot out of the sky in the first turn it appeared.
Yeah, new model syndrome.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I also had quite a lot of fun with the base on that Zyphon. It's got a load of random tech crap I had lying around on it, and then I mangled up an old panel and made it look like Nathan's Emperor's Children.
Oh yeah.
Quite fun. Also in that game, my Falcon's Claws did a good job of, essentially you can give Falcon Claws melter bombs. They run on from the side of the game. They basically ran on from the side of the board and blew up the Spartan.
Nice.
In one go. Ran on, charged the Spartan, blew up the Spartan.
So I was trying to do the same thing with my Raven Guard scouts with melter bombs, and he was obviously a lot more wary because he was using the
that would have been after I'd done it.
So that's why it didn't work. Okay, right. Well, there we go.
So
you end up having to charge his bloody Contemptor with scouts with melter bombs.
Is it everybody gets melter bombs or just the leader?
In the Falcon's Claws, everyone can get melter bombs.
Scout squads can all get melter bombs. Yeah, 5 points per model.
So it was like 5 guys. They're hitting on 2s. They're then wounding on. It's 8 plus 2d6 to get up through armor 14. And they're AP1, so you +2 to all the damage rolls. So getting an explode is like quite easy on that.
Yeah, that's why he was so wary and put the Contemptors in the way then.
And he wasn't taking flare shields as well. So, although I think that's only in shooting. So good fun. Next steps are I've started assembling my speeders. So I think the idea this month is to assemble all the jet bikes and speeders and get them painted in the same way. And then February's job will be to do all the riders the way I did my. So that's the idea. So this it's just going to be get all the speeders done, get all the jet bikes done, masking tape and spray paint. One of the other things we did and invited to our event was Nick, who goes by K0RDHAL on Instagram. We'll put the link below. But we had a little chat with him because he's been doing some amazing conversions. In fact, Russ, he did a conversion for your army. Some brilliant conversions with some lovely backstory to his Blackshields. So we'll come back after this. We'll do community updates. But for now, let's just have a little look at the chat we had with Nick a few weeks ago. Hi, Nick. Welcome to the channel.
Hello.
Hey, Nick.
We've got you on to have a chat about your fantastic conversions and your lovely army, much of which we actually got to see in person. just a few weeks ago when we did our little Zone Mortalis event, a few viewers of the channel came down to play some Zone Mortalis games with us. So it was lovely to actually meet you in real life. We met 3 actual people in real life.
Yeah.
And we all got a few games in. So I guess we should probably start with how the event went. Really, yeah. How did you find it? How did you find Zone Mortalis?
So as you previously discussed in your last video, the attacker is pretty much bollocks. Like it's really actually hard to do well as the attacker unless you get some good objective placement or you're really lucky with reserves and things like that. It's pretty skewed. Like I'm really hoping we get a few more scenarios or that people. I'm sure someone's adapted old Zone Mortalis missions too, because it was every single game was a blast, but 2 out of my 3 games I lost terribly on objective points. On killing power, I didn't do so badly, but on objectives, the main mission, no, you really struggle as the attacker.
Yeah,
I think the actual rules are pretty good. I think the mission is just so impossible for the attacker.
Yeah.
Even in my second, I only played 2 games, so even in my second game, we actually didn't have me place the objectives because I was the defender again. I just put them along the center line of the board, and even then, it was still pretty tough for my opponent because I had the first turn.
Yeah, it was difficult. I won one game as White Scars on the basis of just being fast. Like I was fast enough to get to an objective in 1 turn.
Yeah.
But yeah, difficult. But you played, how many games did you play, Nick? 3?
3. So I played Russ first, Blackshields versus Blackshields, which was a lot of fun. Then second was against Bobbie's Imperial Fist, also a lot of fun. And then the final one was against mind blank, Gary's Space Wolves. That's it. Which was all 3 games were a blast. I actually won by just objectives by sort of like a single score against Gary's Space Wolves, despite his Terminators eating half my army, which is unsurprising because Space Wolf Terminators. But it was really a lot of fun. Like, and it was just, I realized like I really like the system of 30k. It's got a lot of universal special rules, but it's not the current 40k where I have to remember 6 different stratagems and things like that.
Yeah, there is a nice thing that once you know your army, you kind of, it's actually, especially when you batter it down to just the things you need to remember, it's quite fun. But yeah, so we were lucky enough to see your Blackshields army, but one of the reasons we wanted to get you on is conversions. I know Russ has been following you on Instagram for ages. We'll put the Instagram link down below. But yeah, Nick's conversions are incredible. So I guess the first question really is why so much converting? Like you're doing a Blackshields force, right?
Yeah. So I don't know, like I had a long break from the hobby. I did it sort of during like secondary school and like bit in 6th form, went to uni and then picked it up during my masters. And then I really sort of started with the Inc 28 scene, which was all very bespoke, heavily converted. I ended up talking to people who were, because I started off like, I was like, oh, how do you do green stuff? I had no idea. I bought some cheap metal sculpting tools. And I ended up talking to some really nice American hobbyists called, do you know the Between the Bolter and Me guys or the Weir brothers? So I messaged them and it started a long dialogue. And basically through that, I learned how to properly sculpt and all the different tips. And it just opened up so many different avenues. And to me, it's a really way of like, along with paint jobs, to really just put a piece of me in each piece of the army or leader. I can be like, yeah, I did that. That's my kind of thing. Like I have that vision and I can translate it into what they look like.
It's actually a really similar, I have a really similar thing with converting as well. Like I'm not a big painter and I find painting quite boring and I don't want to spend hours and hours doing it. But for weirdly, converting is the same thing. Like I can make them all look unique, and I find it much more varied and interesting than painting.
Yeah, and I like for me, I like for the conversions. It also then I will have like an idea on the fluff or the background, and I'll be like, oh, okay, maybe they do this, and then I'm like, how would I put that in a conversion, or how would I convey that? And it just adds a nice little bit of into story, and like I slowly sort of hodgepodge build up a story for my force as it expands, and that's the way I kind of like it. And then it's just a nice way to convey story elements and things, like all these different things. That's why I really, really like it.
So when we've been sort of chatting over Instagram, one of the things I think has come across, you seem to get more inspired by like models and what's in your own head. Whereas I don't know, is there any stories or anything in particular that inspire you as well? Because I know for me, a lot of it is like I see something in the fluff or see something in the story that I want to do. But for you, it seems to be like the sort of twisted stuff from inside your own head, to be honest.
Well, a lot of it is I have saturated my brain with far too much fantasy and science fiction. So there is all these like different stuff, like where I'll have an author, or I'll be rereading some of my favorite authors like Ian M. Banks or like Alistair Reynolds and things like that. And I read a concept for a science fiction thing, and I'm like, oh man, how would I convey that? And how could I push that into the 40K universe? And then it just gets put through a blender of different things. I'll see a film, I'll see an anime, or I'll read a comic or something like that. And it all just kind of gets pushed through into my imaginary blender and then spat out in another sort of more 30K, 40K form, really.
So I'm trying to remember something else as well. You know the conversion you did with the Ambot, the first one that you've put in our little document here. I feel like I remember you telling me what that was for, and I can't remember for sure. Was that for Inquisitor 28 or something? I can't remember.
No, this first one, it was like I wanted to cast a Ferrum Dreadnought because after playing Zone Mortalis, I was like, I really like it, but I also quite like the boxy old dreadnoughts, and it fits the fluff for Blackshields. And I was like, I had 2 Ambot kits sitting around, like the 2 of the sprues, and I was like, I don't want to buy a box knot, like why don't and I just started slapping bits together, finding other bits of like penitent engines, and it's like and it just sort of came together, really. I was like, okay, I need to lengthen the legs, and then I ended up looking at mechs from one of my favorite like a mech drawn by one of my favorite artists, a guy called Keith Thompson, and I was like, oh, that's a really cool head, and I'll translate that and things like that. So that's how that really came about.
Right. And so he will be that one's going to be actually in the Blackshields, though.
Yes.
I just quickly looked up Keith Thompson. Actually, I'd never heard of him, but his art is really, really good, isn't it? It's kind of crazy looking.
And he reads some of his little snippets, because each drawing he adds a little snippet of story, unless it's a piece of concept art for a game.
Right.
And they're really just so evocative, and it really also helps kind of get the sort of the juices flowing, so to speak.
Yeah. There's another guy on Instagram who we've had his stuff on the channel, and annoyingly his name has escaped me for a moment, who does the Night Lords. And he does really good like little bits of fluff that he posts with his models on Instagram as well. And it just makes the models, just gives them something extra, doesn't it? I wish it takes me too long to come up with stuff. Like I always have sort of a kernel of things in my head, but then by the time I come up with it, it's like, oh, the model's been on Instagram for like 6 months now. There's no point anymore.
It's an amazing body of work. I thoroughly recommend checking out the Instagram. You brought a Black Shield army.
Yeah.
One of 2 Black Shield armies, which very, very useful when you're doing a loyalist versus traitor event. Have a couple of Black Shields in there. So I guess tell us about your Black Shields. Is this a new army for this edition of Heresy, or have you been building it since the first time round?
So I've had it a couple of years ago, like when I kind of got into Heresy 1.0, but I've never really been back then able to complete the Space Marine army. Like I wasn't an army. I built a lot of things, and I could paint warbands, but I just kind of got really daunted a lot of the time. And I love the Black Shield fluff. Like I read about it on some wikis, and then I got the Black Book, which is one of my favorite ones. I think it's like Retribution. And like it really just captured me, because I'm always someone who likes to do their own thing. And I know within the legions you still have plenty of room to do your own thing. But the stuff about the Chimerae and the Void Pirate variants and all that stuff, I was like, oh, this is really, really like just absolutely amazing. So I really kind of ended up sort of going down that path, but I kind of stuttered. Like I've had like somewhere in a case of shame is like several abortive starts of some Blackshields forces, and then we kind of I have a little gaming group on Instagram, and someone said, oh, someone's written some unofficial rules for Horus Heresy Kill Team. And we're like, oh, we'll check that out. And one of our American friends was coming over. We're like, let's build some kill teams. And I ended up building a small Black Shield kill team, and it came up with some fluff. And then the Heresy 2.0 announcement came along, and I was like, whoa, okay. I actually, and all the guy in my gaming group were like, let's have an event. And so we penciled in a date, November 5th. I said, like, come down to the brewery where I work, and we'll have it there. So we had this date. So I was like, right, I'm going to just get going. And then I ended up, once I started, I couldn't really stop. Like, I found a couple of really good painting tutorials by like Damon Rich on YouTube for like stippling. So I like almost all my armies, barely any edge highlight. I just do stippling and glazes and like some detail, and it really works because I've never gotten on with an airbrush. I've tried an airbrush, and I don't like them, but kudos to anyone who does. But the stippling works for me, so I really and that's kind of, and it's just expanded. I've kind of got the bug, really.
Who did you say the stippling workshop was from?
It was like a guy called Damon Rich. I think Richard Gray. He's won a load of Golden Demons.
I've heard of Richard Gray. Yeah.
And his stippling one, he does one for Blood Angels when he got given that free Marine from the Heresy Open Day, and it completely changed things. I was like, whoa, this is actually really, really quick. And it also was a nice way to hear, because he was like, don't try and be perfect. Like, you actually don't need to be perfect. And I think a lot of my hang-ups to the army was like, I want to get each Marine like absolutely correct. And you don't need to do that, actually. No one really cares at an army level that whether you've got like perfect highlighting or blending or shading on every single one of your attack Marines, really. So
this is always my problem.
Yeah, and it's just been a lot of fun, really. And it's nice again, like it feels like I'm carving my own little space in the Heresy of like, these are my dudes, they do this, I've got the theming, and it's just, I've got the bug, really. And plus playing, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, the Crab Knot, that was another one where I was like, oh, I want to see what they would do for because it ties into all my backstory, which I think there's a section on that later, which I'll go into. But there's a reason for the sort of the crab heavy theme throughout my army. But yeah, the Crab Knot was another one that was a lot of fun. Like, my Cataphracti are all thunder, like fluff wise, they're all sort of like thunder warriors that have been rescued from some like cryo storage or something like that, and sort of gene altered to sort of stabilize them. So yeah,
I remember you saying that actually up at Warhammer World. Yeah.
Well, then the obvious question becomes: tell us, Nick. Tell us the backstory for your Black Shields, because Black Shields always have the best backstory.
So my one is based around sort of. I like the idea that, because there's a lot of these things of like an Istvan 3, where they say, oh, that's where a lot of the loyalist members of the Traitor Legions died. But I always thought, like, you turn up as a traitor, you might be like quite ideologically following Perturabo or the Night Haunter. You turn up and you on Istvan, and then you see the word bearers with their like absolutely insane, like demonically possessed Marines, and you see the Emperor's children, and you might just go like, hang on, okay, I may be going to have second thoughts of that. And so I thought, let's run with this concept. And so I had this idea of someone who like an Iron Warriors apothecary, who was initially like, oh yeah, okay, I can see we've got to be the Emperor could become a tyrant. We've done the grunt work. We've got to have a firm hand on the tiller of the Imperium. We deserve this. But he gets through onto the drop site massacre, and he's like, I did not sign up for this, really. Like, in the realization, I think the comment of like killing fellow Marines. And so I like to think he probably has a network of other veterans within other legions, and it's just like, hey, this is a bit problematic. Like, I don't like this. I maybe agreed with the initial thing of the sort of the rebellion, but I don't like where this is going and who we're allying with. So he steals a load of gene seeds and things like that, and goes off. And he actually ends up like, my idea was that there is a group of like a Xenos race called the Carsonids of a minor Xenos race that I came up with. And they're sort of like a crab-based Xenos race that in my fluff fought the word bearers. So that's how he knows about them, that they fought and beat the word bearers. And my idea is that he went to them and said like, hey, look, I have a load of word bearers gene seed. If I trade this to you, can you maybe trade me some of your like genetic code or something like that? Because I want to create like a sort of a rapid clone army of enhanced Marines, because I want to kind of sort of stick a knife in the back of the traitors. So that's the basic idea. So he starts going off and using all sorts of unsanctioned cloning technology, chronal accelerators to stop churning out Marines. And I imagine he starts encountering other sort of ragtag bands and maybe says, hey, do you want to join? And that's a kind of real backstory, that he's kind of like he's a loyalist, but it's kind of more an ends justify the means. So he uses alien weaponry, alien technology, really sort of stuff that would probably turn the lawyers would go, okay, no, we don't want this guy on our team, like unsanctioned genetic modification. But he really is like, okay, I made a mistake and I want to course correct here.
Amazing. It's a really lovely, it's a classic Blackshield thing as well. That idea that like, people have found themselves on the wrong side and have turned on the other side, but maybe aren't complete. Like, there's a lovely thing in the Heresy where like it gives a lot of people a lot of chance to go and just do their own thing. Who aren't maybe completely up for Horus's demon fun and also were never completely up for what the Emperor became. It's great. It's a really nice idea and a beautiful army. You've got some more plans coming up. So how big are you at the minute, and what's the next plans to expand?
So with my whole force, which I didn't, I think I'm around, if I'm pretty tooled up, all my painted is about 1,800 points. Okay. And then expanding Castaferum, I definitely need to paint. Is on my list. I'm building a Legion Scout squad as well, so I think I've dropped the image of one of the conversions that's coming up in there.
Yeah, they look great.
Yeah.
My idea for army building is always, is it cool? Is it thematic? That's it. That's all I really care about. Like, I actually, like, I've had just as much fun losing plenty of games as I've had winning, and that's the thing for me. Like, if it's nice, it's thematic. I feel like I've told a story. I don't really care whether I got shot off the board or not.
Yeah,
I'm a lot better at that these days. I haven't always been great at losing. I've never been someone who's like ultra win at all costs, but I have in the past sometimes been a bit like, oh, the dice are so shit. Whereas these days I can, I'll mention the fact the dice are shit, but it doesn't actually bother me the way it used to. But it is something about, being able to just lose and still enjoy it. But I did win both games on the One World thing I played, which was just weird for me, frankly. Anyway, sorry, back to the models, because the next one is a second assassin.
Yeah, I really like the Adamus model, like the base model. But of course, I've got compulsive conversionitis, so I was like, how can I sort of modify him? And I really like the base, so I lengthened the torso a little bit, and so I added a little 1 mil spacer in his torso, and then replaced one of the legs with a bionic leg and gave him sort of a skull mask. Sort of harken forward to the death cult assassins in all the Inquisitor stuff. So
where's that leg from?
It's from the Repentia kit, like one of the Repentia kits. So it's a really good sized leg for anyone who wants a human's bionic. So I just ended up going with that. And then I've got I think I posted in the conversion thread that I've got an Indomitus squad that I'm kind of building, again very much inspired by Bobbie's amazing conversion using the heavy intercessors, but instead of using the Indomitus Terminator bits, I'm using the squat exosuits to kind of give that old mining rig feel. So
cool, brilliant. Well, thank you for coming on, and I will put a link to your page in the thing below. I urge everyone to go and check out your work. It is lovely, really nice to speak, and we will see you in February at the event. Thanks, Nick.
Definitely.
Cheers, Nick.
Thank you very much.
Take care. Bye.
So there we go. That's Cordal. Fantastic. So as always, we've got a lot of community updates to do. People have been busy in December. So let's start with your photos. Thanks for sending all those in. As always, I should say now that if you want to take part, the email address is on the Patreon, and Patreon members can then send in their stuff, and we'll bring them up on the channel. Cool. So we'll start off with Imperial Fist. So Simon has done Sigismund and a squad of Templar Brethren, and also completed the Rhino. These are different to the ones you're doing, right? They're combat shields rather than breaching shields, yeah? Bobbie?
Mine have got combat shields as well.
Oh, okay.
These are just the Forge World models, whereas mine are kind of a bit custom.
They're looking good. I always like the sort of black armor, yellow shoulder pad thing.
Yeah, that's good.
Very classic old 40k thing there, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Steve has switched to his Custodes. Has been doing some Heteron Guard by using some Grey Knight swords on Wardens. So Heteron Guard are like the elite Custodes unit in Heresy. They're a bit like Wardens are in 40k. And yeah, if you use the 40k Wardens kit, you can get ones that look a bit better. And then they have a weapon which is called Meridian Blades, which is 2 swords. So I think that's the Grey Knight Nemesis Falchions used to get those.
Yeah, it looked really good for that.
Yeah, works really well, doesn't it? just because, there are no Meridian Blade models. I also like the white Custodes scheme. Very nice. Ed and his Dusk Raiders. He said he's got he did that event a few months ago. He got most of the bases done for his Dusk Raiders, but mostly just dry brushed them. So mostly he's just been doing bases and building some scenery. So the only thing that isn't a base he sent us was this picture of some trees, a tenuously relevant heresy tree.
Is that actually just a stick?
It's roots from a Christmas wreath.
Wow.
Like bits from a Christmas wreath that he bought and pulled apart.
Oh, wow.
So there we go, some scenery from Ed. Callum has been doing Traitor World Eaters. One tactical squad built and painted. And partly took a while because he decided on a different legion. So couldn't decide on a legion to start with. But yeah, so he's got one really grubby, mangled-looking World Eaters unit there.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah.
I like the little mix of helmets. That's always a nice look to make them look a little bit more worn in.
The Mark V helmet jumped out at me. It screams World Eaters Mark V helmet, doesn't it?
Also, I'm sure there's like a Mark X helmet at the back there doing double duty as a Mark IV.
There's a couple of Mark IV helmets,
Yeah.
Mark III helmet. There's
Primaris
a good variety.
helmet. There's Mark IV Primaris. Yeah, I reckon you're right.
Yeah, it's good. Those Primaris helmets doing double duty as Mark IVs. It's clever. Mark is doing Iron Hands. They've been doing a couple of Contemptors. A couple of Contemptors and then magnetized weapons for more things. So got Volkites there and grabby claws with stabby things on them. Contemptors are, of course, horrible. We have found out. I need to make some.
Yeah, we need to join in, Ian.
Not for the White Scars, but the Word Bearers are definitely getting some. Makariel, speaking of White Stars, so Makariel's done their White Scars. This is proper White Scars army with bikes, jet bikes, and a Karnon bike for good measure, and finished the Apothecaries that weren't quite done last month, and a Praetor with a magnetized weapon. So yeah, actual bikes, which is lovely. These are the 40k bikes, and then a Praetor, which is from the Age of Darkness box, and then the jet bikes are 3 Custodes ones, and one looks like the I'm not sure if that's the Shamshir jet bike. I think that's the Shamshir jet bike. That's the White Scars special Golden Keshig jet bike.
Yeah, they're looking very cool. I always enjoy bike armies. They always look very cool.
Well, you're going to enjoy the next few months because that's what I'm going to be doing. I've got 4 of those Shamshirs to paint up. I'm finally assembling all those bikes. That have been sitting around for years and years and years, resin Forge World scimitar bikes for the army, and we've just got the thing where it looks like there's going to be a scimitar plastic.
Possibly, yeah. That preview did seem like there was a very bikey shaped silhouette.
And it was in the Heresy thing, wasn't it? Yeah, because the other option is that it's a new plastic Primaris Samael, but
no, it's in the Heresy.
It's in the Heresy thing, isn't it? So it's probably plastic jet bikes. Oh well. Alexander has done more Imperial Fists. Failed to do his goal of finishing the complete box, but only really missing the second Praetor and just needs to finish off the Spartan, though. It is looking really good there. These are all obviously Daughters of Dawn. So just like Gary, got some heads from the Votan and Stormcast ranges. Didn't think of using Votan heads. That's really clever.
Yeah, I'll have to have a look at those.
Yeah. Nordic Painter, Alex is one of my favourite painters on Instagram.
Yeah,
I'm just mentioning there that he hasn't managed to play a game. I'm trying to remember if he's based in the UK or if he's
in
whether he'd be able to come up to Warhammer World.
Yeah,
in February or not, but I can't remember whereabouts he is in the world.
Well, worth saying, if you want to get some games in and have no one to play with, let us. And you are able to get there end of February. Yeah, we'll have some spaces going. But yeah, they look brilliant. It's the vibrant yellow in these that always looks so good. So then we have Chile's amazing salamanders. So this month, they've obviously still incredible, looks brilliant. Salamanders, Leviathan Dreadnought. But very very dynamic for a Leviathan Dreadnought. This.
Yeah, charging for.
really love the weathering on the big chest panels. There's so much space on them to do that, and yeah, they're like the dirt streaks off the rivets and stuff look really cool.
The flames are incredible as well.
Flames are incredible. Basically, it looks incredible, but we couldn't decide whether we think he looks like he's got Mickey Mouse ears or googly eyes.
I think it's googly eyes, and he looks
Mickey
very
Mouse
surprised.
You're wrong. It's Mickey Mouse ears.
Yeah, I think it's googly eyes and a big open mouth as well.
Yeah, googly eyes and a big open mouth, like a surprised fish.
We're mean, aren't we?
It looks great. It looks great. But once you've seen it, those very, very bright ports above his head.
It is really, really good.
Looks brilliant. I almost want to do that deliberately now. It's brilliant. Looks lovely. Roland has been sending his Emperor's Children, starting from scratch on an Age of Darkness box, which was in August, and has now got 3,500 points all painted. Look at this. 3,000 points pictured, including predators and rhinos and dread. Yeah, that's a pretty decent sized force, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Presumably the other
That's
500
really
points is
impressive
the Spartan. It got the champion special model in there and a librarian conversion, it looks like.
Yeah, I think that's Soltarvitz, the
Oh,
the one
yeah.
with the big swords. I can't quite place the librarian, but it looks very nice from.
It is Soltarvitz, that champion. Yeah. Synth Sapiens have been working on their salamanders. They are the Salamanders 82nd, accompanied by a small detachment of Blood Angels 5th. Find themselves behind enemy lines after the massacre, and then they lead the 441st Expeditionary Fleet in a series of adventures to rescue Isfahan survivors. So that way they can have lots of different. Presumably they'll end up as Shattered Legions with lots of different things in. I always like conversions of that one Praetor to have a great big hammer.
Yeah,
which is quite nice, and I like the use of all the crazy chaos backpacks as well.
The other thing I love is the power axe, the guy top right.
Oh yeah,
that is a brutal looking power axe.
Yes, is that a chopped up version of the axe that used to be on the Praetor?
I can't quite tell, but it very well might be.
Might be. Yeah.
But the other thing is the plasma gunners there. I love the fact they haven't all just got the same type of plasma gunners.
Yeah.
It's really nice to see that sort of, they've pieced themselves together and they just happen to have 5 plasma guns, even though they clearly weren't previously a squad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it. Looks very, very Shattered Legions. Ron has done some Dark Angels, lives in a town in Western Australia, so gaming isn't something he can do as often as he wants. But there's a lot of Dark Angels there. That's a Fire Raptor. Famously one of the worst kits to assemble, so I'm sorry, Ron, that must have been a nightmare. Is that Storm Eagle? No, it's a Fire Raptor. Storm Eagle.
I can't remember which one's which.
I can't remember.
My gut instinct is Fire Raptor, but I'm not actually sure about that.
It's good. They're looking great, though. Nice little force. Neil has finished a couple of bits off on his on his word bearers. So he's hit 2,000 points of word bearers and then played first game of Heresy with them and beat his brother at them, liking the old school hills there as well. Very nice.
Yeah.
They're looking great. Brilliant. They've got some nice rapiers in there as well. I like those rapiers. Kenny has finally got a squad done of 1,000 Suns. These are looking brilliant. Never doing a 20-person unit ever again, he says.
I think it was worth it, though, because they look fantastic.
Yeah, one 20-person tactical squad is lovely. But yeah, after that, you are a bit like, oh, do I ever want to do this again? But yeah, they do look brilliant.
I really like the mix of like the candy red armor, the white bolters, and then like the weathering on them. It's just a really nice, really nice scheme.
It's lovely. It's lovely. So Will, So Will, if you remember, had hip surgery and spent 6 weeks hobbying, which is why he's got so much done. Late Heresy Blood Angels, so that he can have some Mark 7s in there. And yeah, that whole army, it built the entire army and is now painting it bit by bit. Which is one way to do it. I kind of prefer to like break my painting up with building, but late Heresy.
Old RTBO ones over there on the left hand side as well.
There are some white ones, and some regular Terminators and some Breachers as well. White Scars Breachers holding the wall because they're Siege of Terror, late Heresy, right?
Yeah.
Jeroen is emailed in. Jeroen Brugman is doing Dark Angels. Again, lots built there. It's a Firewing force centered around an Esoterist, which is an old Ezekiel model. Oh yeah, I see him there in the middle. Who's trying to stop the Ruinstorm. So yeah, as everyone does with this, way too many characters because characters are so easy to put into Heresy armies. And then working up from grey to working up from black to grey with a lot of these, and adding Sakaran and Rhinos. And a few dreadnoughts. Yeah, but they're coming along well, I think. Looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like there's a lot of conversion work going on in there, which is always... I mean, that's what I think Heresy's best for, is getting a chance to convert every single miniature to get really unique models.
Just takes a while, that's all.
Davide has returned to his Talons of the Emperor. Davide was building Talons of the Emperor out of all sorts of other models. So these are Stormcast Annihilators kit-bashed into Aquilon Terminators with fists, which are looking really good. They're not quite as chunky as the Aquilons. Well, it seems like it, but who knows? Because those Annihilators are quite big models. They're the guys with the hammers, aren't they? And the big round shields.
Yeah.
And then started off on the first of the two Custodes Fancy Contemptors. This is the heavy support one with a sword and shield, which is either I think it's the Galatus, Contemptor Galatus.
Yeah,
or Contemptor Achilles.
Which way round they are.
Yeah, I don't remember which one's which. Yeah, but all looking brilliant. Really dark, battered gold there. Kieran has done the same thing I've been doing, building tanks all month. So, magnetized Predator Squadron for the 211th Black Shield Garrison Company of the Iron Warriors, slowly turning his army into an armored spearhead, which is something I'm trying to resist because I really like the idea of armored spearhead armies, even though they're going to be terrible. I really like the idea of a whole army of Predators led by a Predator. Yeah,
it'd be a really fun game to play if both sides had tanks, like only tanks, like a tank battle.
Yeah, on like a massive board.
Yeah,
or tanks versus jet bikes or something like that.
Yeah, I can see that looking very, very cool.
Yeah, they're looking very good. Yeah, lovely. So those are looking good. Brilliant. I like the hazard stripes there. Ben has been doing some white scars. Has got a load done. Heavy support squad. 2 tactical support squads with Volkite calibers again, and a dreadnought, a magnetized dreadnought. And they're saying basically, at this point, the army's kind of done until plastic jet bikes come out, which, of course, we just saw a preview of, we think. So enough to play with. It's sort of the same thing I'm doing. Build a normal army first and then do the jet bikes afterwards. Yeah, looking good. Luke has been doing Sons of Horus, says December's been pretty busy, but not much painting done. Did a Caradron Ironclad, but that doesn't count. And finished up a 10-man squad of 10 Terminators. But yeah, progress is progress. Try and get more done in the new year. They're looking good, particularly Dark and Evil. Mark is doing Night Lords, has finished another veteran, that's like a Terror Squad, veteran squad, whatever you like.
They're really nice, yeah.
Yeah, really nice. The skull helmets, looking particularly scary.
Yeah.
I like the use of the Praetor's skull backpack thing as well there. It's quite nice. Gregor, right before Christmas, has added some word bearers to their army. He's on Sir Greg's Warhammer, and this is a word bearers. There's a bit of chaos stuff used in there, which is quite nice. Chaos shoulder pads for a tactical support squad. And then Manic Mushrooms has done loads of stuff. He said it didn't paint as much as before due to Christmas, but did manage to paint some scenery. You've got a little Zone Mortalis board to play on, which is good. And then played a few games with his Iron Fists and Imperial Fists and Iron Hands, which is mostly because he's the only person with Heresy near where he lives. It's mostly people coming around to use one of those against him. That's nice. Nicholas has also done Iron Warriors. At some point, just forced myself to add chevrons and hazard stripes to the previously solid yellow shoulder guards. Yeah, they look good. Looks brilliant. But yeah,
I like the purple for them. Yeah,
it's a nice accent color, isn't it? It's the exact opposite to yellow, right? So it sets the yellow off.
Yeah, it works. Yeah.
A few people like getting bits and bobs done so they can do something for December. Dave says just got a squad of rotor cannon Space Wolves done. Nice little
Brutal.
update. Tactical support squad with miniguns.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're nice. Well,
And then-
the eyes really pop on them for some. I don't,
Yeah, there's a nice little. It's,
a lot of time and effort into the eyes, and it somehow just really makes them pop.
the pink.
It
Yeah,
makes
yeah,
the
yeah.
whole model better just for the eyes.
The little what's it called? Little targeter on top of the helmet.
Yeah.
Stuart has done a collage here of First Legion stuff. The classic shoulder-mounted heavy plasma gun there,
Yeah. I
and
do like those.
Kratos with the big Kratos dozer blade, which is nice.
Nice, yeah.
So those are really nice
I
plasma
really
guns.
That
like
looks
the,
isn't that an orc dose? It looks almost like an orky battle wagon, doesn't it? 'Cause
No,
it's
but I
got,
think
like,
that is what you get with the Kratos. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's got like the orky checkers. It looks
Yeah.
almost like a golf battle wagon.
Has that been looted? Yeah.
Yeah. It's awesome,
Jasper has been doing, it didn't do much this month, but got some progress, blocked in all the base colours for the Leviathan for his World Eaters, and then kit bashed some spoilers from the old Khorne Berserkers kit. It's quite a good use of the old, now that there's new big Khorne Berserkers for 40k, the old Khorne Berserkers kit might be quite handy to just throw into a World Eaters army now with the old scale Marines.
Mm.
So yes, and very happy that the World Eaters transfers are back in stock, so the big empty areas of blue and white can be filled up when they arrive.
there's the big sheets from Forge World, so they're worth their work. They're
They're so
cost. They're a
good.
bit pricey, but you just need to buy one. That's your whole army sorted.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
An A4 sheet that's packed with stuff. William. So William has been doing Death Guard, came and played with us. Had some fun playing with his terrifying Death Guard army on the Zone Mortalis day. That was horrible. The Death Guard rule is something like they always count as standing still, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and just their Tox Flamers and things are all very scary.
Yeah,
So
it was very
powerless.
scary. I didn't know who to charge with those. I did not win that game, I think. But yeah, they after playing against Bobbie's Imperial Fists, decided to pick up Typhon because special characters turn out to be quite good.
Typhus?
Typhon.
Typhon.
No, it's Typhon back
Callus
then. Typhus by the time he's in 40k.
Yeah,
but
he
it's
changed
Callus
his name.
Typhon is the full name, isn't it? Then it
Yeah,
became
Callus
then it
Typhon.
became Typhus as the thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so been
'Cause I was
yeah,
looking at
so we've
Typhon
got
the tank, and I was like, but there's no Typhon in that photo.
no,
But
there,
there's
yeah.
Callus Typhon. Yeah,
Callus
yeah.
Typhon. So
Yeah.
Callus Typhon is underway there, as well as a Kratos and a Sikaran. That's a normal Sikaran there, isn't it?
I believe so.
That's like a pretty big, scary addition to the Death Guard army there. Brilliant. Arsa has been doing some Emperor's Children again, this time jet bikes with a spear-wielding sergeant. Painted 113 Emperor's Children since this series started in August. I think Arsa only started joining in September, October as well, so that's a lot to get through. I think they are doing it as a commission for their friend. But yeah, they're looking beautiful. That's a good use of the Emperor's Children that transfers.
Well, I like the gold on that. Normally,
Yeah.
gold is either too silvery or too bland.
Whereas that's
That
a
looks
very
really
rich
nice.
colour.
Yeah.
Gil did not quite make what they intended. Pretty close to Praetor. So, brilliant, lovely. Artemisia, the Praetor of the 242nd Company Ultramarines. I think that's another female Space Marine. Brilliant, well done. Converted, I think, from the... Is that converted from the plastic Battle of Calth Terminator Captain, or is it fancier
Sure.
than that?
I don't
No,
know.
that's the resin one from the set with the two Predators in. 'cause it's
Oh,
got
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that looks brilliant. And then some scary dreadnoughts coming along.
Yeah.
Yeah, so a lot of big blue boys right there. Those dreadnoughts are beefy.
Yeah, that's quite terrifying.
Yep.
Paul Zarfai has been doing his Blood Angels. So December was a bit slower, managed to finish the Leviathan Dreadnought and got a good start on a unit of Assault Marines, but wanted to do a little photo of where things are so far. And that looks, I love this army. It looks beautiful.
Yeah.
Really,
It's a
really
lovely
good.
army shot.
And then we move on to Yale. So Yale's done a load of progress. Studio Gary has done Yale, sorry. 3 other friends, they made a Zone Mortalis campaign about a Dark Angel ship plating through a Traker block around Terra. And so built a little Zone Mortalis board, which looks fantastic.
Really good.
Yeah, I particularly like the hazard stripe border there, looking very good. And then painted up a ton of scary looking world eaters, Terminators.
They are nasty looking.
Yeah, bloody
really
looking.
corroded.
I like how the Thunderhammer is literally just covered in gore.
They are they are how world eaters should look. They are utterly disgusting. Like they make Death Guard look clean almost.
Yeah. Yeah. That's brilliant. Brilliant.
I was saying, what is armor maintenance?
Yeah.
It just gets in the way of killing, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Andrew has done Raven Guard. This is the December photo. 1 Squad of Marines, which are a work in progress, painted in base colours so far. Black and bone white instead of the normal white, which is also what I did with the white scars, that they're all sort of bone white base. Makes them look a bit more old, antique-y. Quite nice. And then the militia part of the army might become Solar Auxilia. So he's the one who converted up lots of like Foot Knight models, Perry Foot Knights, which might work as Solar Auxilia instead of militia. And of course, those rules are out, so that's useful. Ian has done Night Lords, built Raptors and Terror squads. Couldn't finish Sevatar over Christmas because they ran out of satin varnish, but all looks really good. Yeah, so that looks like a good amount of progress. I quite like the massive flagstone bases there.
I really like the Contemptor's literal chain fist with the fingers on chains to whip around.
I noticed that. That's awesome.
Actually really nice.
That's really good.
Jack has done some Iron Warriors, pretty big, important lads. So they've done a character thing. So one, a Praetor with a lovely chevron cloak, Perturabo himself, and an Iron Automata to protect him.
With the good stripes, but you know.
Yeah, and also another dangly chain weapon on the Praetor.
Dangly chain weapon is just so cool.
Yeah. That's really, really good. Tim has been doing Raven Guard as well, mostly assembling. So 20 Tactical Marines, 10 Recon with Nemesis Bolters, a Vigilator, which is their special character, Praetor and Librarian, Spartan and Dreadnoughts in the back. So bits and bobs, a few models done, but mostly a load of assembly in December, which is good progress. And then finally, David also came. So David came with Alpha Legion to the event. So he was playing along. Lovely to meet David as well. And David has sent through some more Alpha Legion from the crazy army of every single era of Marines. We've got some. We've got a 2nd edition Apothecary there. Some modern Alpha Legion Mark 6s with Volkite culverins, and the Gabs, and I can't remember the name of the other. Definitely not female Space Marine Adventurer series, Rogue Trader Adventurer series characters.
Someone, is it? I can't remember if it's Drew Day Williams or someone else has done the sculpt of like another sort of 9 or 10 to go with them.
Yeah.
Is it Drew Day Williams?
It's Sator Art Studios, I think.
Right, is it? Okay, yeah. Someone did it. They were really good though. Yeah.
Done some Rogue Trader era Marines. So if anyone doesn't know, these models are models that were in the very, very early days of Rogue Trader, before they really sorted about what they were doing. There was just a load of inspiration sent out, and loads of people sculptors sculpted whatever they sort of wanted. And so there were some female Space Marine models sculpted, which then they realized that because in their old 80s D line, because it was the 80s, nerds wouldn't buy the girls. So shops used to complain that please stop sending us the one with girls in because the nerds won't buy them. So that's when they stopped making. They made the decision to not do to make Space Marines male because that was easier. And then they released those 2 models separately later as like adventurers, Rogue Trader adventurers in powered armor. So the original 2 female Space Marine models were then released as Rogue Trader Adventurers. One of them's called Gabs, and I can't remember what the other one's called. But brilliant. There we go. So tons of. We said this before that we sort of expected to get like 20 entrants in the first month and for it to fall off after that. Whereas actually what's happened is we've got more and more every month. I don't think of a different way of doing this. We've only got 2 months left. for me to search through. But yeah, thank you for all of that. And thanks everyone. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Thanks for sticking with us. By February, we will have full-size armies. Won't we? Won't we, Russ?
Got a lot to do still. A lot to do.
Well, look, it's New Year's Eve now. I'll get this edited over the next few days. You should see it quite soon. Thanks, everyone, for taking part. As always, Happy New Year. And see you next time.
Cheers.
Bye.
See ya.
Bye. Bye.